Hey everybody, my name is Craig, product line manager for Bose Pro up here in Framingham, Massachusetts. And I am joined by the one and only Coy Bowles, songwriter, guitarist, keyboard player for Zac Brown Band, as well as Coy Bowles and the Fellowship, author of children's books also. It's pretty well-rounded. Welcome, Coy.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, no problem. We've chatted a couple of times about your love for all things Bose, and you've had a chance to use the new L1 Pro32 systems, and you've had Model 2s for many years. So I'm excited to kind of dig into that a little bit and explore your experience and just hear what you think.
Yeah, this is going to be a good conversation, man. There's a lot to talk about with this new the new setup. You know.
Awesome. So what have you been up to this year? What a weird year, huh?
Yeah, it has been a weird year, man. There's been it's just like anything in life. There's always like the perspective, I guess you would say, and um, so I had two projects come out at the very beginning of the pandemic. One was a book that I had been working on for the last year or so. It was supposed to come out with the state of Georgia. A children's CD, which was the first children's CD that I'd ever done, was supposed to come out right at the very beginning of the pandemic. And also, I've been working for the last 2 years on a social emotional education kit with this company called Lakeshore that was supposed to come out at the very beginning of when like Aprilish kind of thing, and man, it just was like we'd spent like you know 3 or 4 months with the PR of how it's all going to unfold, and then all of a sudden the world just like turns upside down, and you're like, none of that stuff is going to work anymore. It doesn't have any kind of vibe or resonancy. It's not. So we had to kind of rethink a lot of stuff, but luckily the cool thing was that the children's music that I'd been a part of making and writing and everything was all really positive stuff, and it was really needed at that time. And so I instantly jumped on line and started doing these um, where I would just like read a book that I wrote, sing a song to kids that were stuck at home, and by this point kids have been stuck at home for a couple weeks, and all that. So it felt good to just be a part of somebody who's trying to bring some kind of unity to things, and do something good specifically for kids who are just kind of clueless and stuck at home, and maybe scared or unsure, because think once you get a little older, change something becomes something that you kind of go, yeah, it happens, like the more adult like you get, the more you realize that change is inevitable. But when you're a kid, change kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's catastrophic sometimes.
Yeah. So that felt really good, man. And luckily everything ended up working out, which the backstory, just to kind of fill everybody in, when I ended up having, you know, when the Zac Brown Band ended up having a lot of success in the very beginning. I came from a really small town, and I wasn't that interested in a lot of the stuff that came along with, like, say, success. I loved being recognized, and I loved my fellow musicians, knowing who I am, and I loved playing in front of a bunch of people. But the kind of extra stuff that came along with it was something that was hard for my like small town upbringing to really like comprehend. And so my mother had talked to me about why not get into giving back. And I had taught guitar lessons for a long time before I was professionally touring musician, and I really enjoyed hanging out with kids. And so that with being into creative writing and a storyteller and stuff turned into me writing kids books, and then that turned into kind of like a major focus in my life is being a part of the education system in the United States and being an advocate for literacy and teachers and things of that nature. So it's been a really cool journey, man. Just never in my wildest dreams would I ever thought that I would be this deep off into the children's world, because I listen to like super sad music or like, you know, the saddest of all sad blues things, or I listen to like metal, or, you know, I grew up riding skateboards and listening into like punk rock and DRI and, you know, Minor Threat and all of this stuff. So I never in my life would have thought that I'd be like doing children's stuff, but it's really rewarding, man. So, you know,
You're dynamic.
yeah,
All those
try to be,
all the catalogs of those tunes you just mentioned. It's like that's emotional stuff. So you're a dynamic, emotional guy.
try to be.
It's I mean, we've only talked for a couple of times, but I just I really love and it comes across as so genuine, your passion for just the well-being of kids, and the fact that you decided to write a couple of books, and you're doing this like on top of being, you know, uh, a member of one of the most famous bands in the world. My hat's off to you. I think that's just wonderful. It's awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt that I have a 3 and a 4 year old, 3 and 4 year old daughters, so I'm like in that world right now, you know. And the guys in the band all have a lot of kids. Like Zach has 5 kids, our fiddle player has 4 kids, one of the other guys has 3 kids. Yeah, so there's just like there's kids everywhere, dude. You know, when we're out on the road and people bring their kids out, or you know, if we do a show in Atlanta, man, it's like, you know, an entire team of little kids running around. So, and it keeps you young and it keeps things fun, man. You know, like I really enjoy the vibe that kids put off. You know, they're really creative and haven't gotten jaded by the world yet and all that stuff, which is how I try to live. You know,
Yeah, it's pretty pure for sure.
yeah.
Um, you shared this video, this mad dash for Bose.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how many Bose products you found in not even that wasn't even 1 minute long. I think it was
Yeah, it
like
was like 56 seconds, I think. As a musician, what you listen to music through is a giant deal. For me, it's Bose and has been for a long time. I'm gonna do this thing called Mad Dash for Bose. Here we go. By the bedstand, Bose, Bose. Watching TV, Bose. Bubba. Portable. In the couch. By the TV. Workout bag. Car. Other car. Buzz. Just saying.
so you've been a fan of Bose for a while before we even met, and I don't know if you want to talk about like the stuff that you have and stuff that you use and why you choose Bose.
Yeah, it's really interesting, man. There wasn't like necessarily a certain reason. I guess when you become like a touring musician and as many dates as we do, you know, over the last like 15 years, I mean, in the very beginning, man, we were always gone. And you were always on a plane or a van or a bus or something just smacked in with, you know, you know, there was 5 people, now there's 8 people in the band, you know, when we first started. So just always, you know, surrounded by other guys, you know. And for me growing up being an only child, and never having brothers or sisters or anything like that, you know, I really need kind of like my own little bubble a lot of times. And I found that, like when we would get off a plane, as soon as I would get off the plane, I would instantly turn my headphones on. And that's one of these kind of signals to other people that, like, you know, you're in your little bubble kind of, you know, yeah, just like I'm good. But I also, it was a way to stay connected with music as well. So there was just so much stuff that had to do with constantly having headphones on. One, it like kept me in this bubble to where I was kind of had personal space. And specifically when we would jump on like a van to go to the venue from a plane ride, you know, I'd be able to put like sit in the back of the van, have my headphones on, and just kind of in my own little zone or whatever else. Because at the time back then, I was a little claustrophobic. So always being in these tight spaces and vehicles, you know, with other people driving that I wasn't aware of, like their driving skills and all this other stuff, it was like a calming factor too. You know, it's like my kind of little safe space or whatnot. So anyway, long story, man. I bought a pair of noise canceling Bose headphones, and I had them for probably a year. And just like everything that happens when you travel that much, I left them on a plane, and I got off, and I was like, dude, I don't have my headphones. Like I don't have my space. I don't have my thing. And so I instantly, as soon as we got to the venue, asked the runner if they could go out and buy another set. And I realized, like, at that moment, kind of how important and how much I used them. Um, and then that turned into you know um, getting hip to the sound bars and stuff like that, because I love watching movies and things like that. And and then it became this thing to where I realized that that was kind of my what I listen to most is Bose speakers. And so, and you guys are a huge company, and a lot of people listen to Bose products. You guys, more recently, I guess in the last probably 15-20 years, have gotten a lot of speakers in cars. And so people are listening to Bose speakers, which have a certain kind of sound once you start really digging into them. So I started using it to reference my mixes when I was writing songs and mixing songs. And when we would get the mixes back or the masters back, I would go and make sure. I mean, obviously, I'd listen to all different kinds of stuff, but it's like if it sounded good on Bose speakers, that, like, and that was the thing with the bass was always really interesting, because Bose kind of has like a pretty warm kind of low end. It's kind of known for that, like, really gives you kind of what you want kind of sound.
Yeah.
And when the low end was a little bit too much, I knew that it was going to be too much across the world kind of thing. So I really enjoyed that, though, getting to know kind of what the sound sounds like. The quality's always there. That's something that I really enjoy when buying products is you get what you pay for kind of thing. Like, not only does it sound good, but they didn't break a lot or anything like that. They were kind of roadworthy and tested. So man, but I've had the noise canceling headphones that have the wires to it, the headphones that are noise canceling that are like over the ears, the sport uh in ears that you kind of work out with, and things of that nature that can take a little bit more sweat than the other ones. Yeah, those are kind of like the main ones that and then the sound bar, the little guy, the thing that's like this big.
The 300.
Yeah, I carried that dude in my backpack for probably, I don't know, 5
You
years.
probably mean like the SoundLink Mini.
Yeah, yes, yes. No, no, no. The one that's like I'm is it a SL2? It's like
SoundLink.
yeah, SoundLink.
Regular SoundLink, not the Mini. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's pretty heavy. Like if you were to get robbed and you threw somebody a SoundLink at the head, it wouldn't be like a good day for them. But yeah, I carried that thing in my backpack everywhere I went, and I used to. That's like part of my rig. Like when I get to a venue, I'll set that thing up, and then that's what I like play guitar through my computer and like warm up on. Is that dude? So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like we should send you like Bose swag. Some,
Yeah,
you need
you
some
know,
frames too, some Bose frames.
yeah. Oh, I know about. I've read about those. I've never worn any though. But but the cool thing is, we ended up doing a commercial with JJ Watt, who's a fan of the band, and we ended up becoming friends with him. So we actually did a Bose commercial, which was really cool. And over the years, as I've gotten to meet people who are with the company, it's just a cool company, man. Like everybody that I've met, it's like like yourself, man. Everybody's really cool and nice, and um, you know, uh, it's just it kind of is one of those kind of things to where I like what you guys do. Cool people, it's kind of easy fit.
That's really nice of you to say. It's yeah, it's Bose is it's a fantastic company to work for. It's just a lot of really passionate people that want to do the right thing, and we're not just concerned about the product, but also about the user experience. So,
Sure.
how easy is it for you to take it out of the case and set it up or put it in your ears, or in
I
the
think
case
that
of,
comes across though, man. You know what I mean? Like I think that resonates. Like you kind of feel like it comes from the kind of the top down, and like when and the when you get one of your products, it seems like it's been pretty thought out. Like I have like in my little brain, I have this idea that there's some really really smart people somewhere like all having conversations about like the nth degree of all of this stuff and making sure that, is this going to like, are you going to trip over it? Can it be this far from your phone and lose connection? And, like all of this kind of this stuff to where when you get it, you're like, you feel like it's been through the Willy Wonka lab of, of tested and tried.
You're exactly right, and the Willy Wonka lab is a good way to describe it. User experience is key. So if
Yeah.
you don't enjoy using it, it can sound great and look great, but you're not going to use it as much if you don't love using it and the experience that you have.
Yeah.
So you've had so let's talk about the Pro product that you have been using. So
Yeah.
for a few years you've had a L1 Model S, and now you have an L1 Pro 32 with a Sub 2. My job at Bose as product line manager, I oversaw the development of the L1 Pro systems for the last couple of years. And much like the rest of the world, we went remote back in March, April, when the world kind of shut down. And kudos to the team. We stayed on track, and we released our products in November as we had planned to do. So it's refreshing to talk to folks like you that have just great experiences with Bose, and you're just really a brand loyalist. I want to ask you, so you've had the L1 Model S and a B1 base module, and you've had a few weeks to work with the L1 Pro 32. Obviously, with the Zac Brown Band, you guys are playing huge venues, and you've got like stadium PAs and line arrays, and you got people to work on that for you.
Sure.
You're doing your own thing. You've got your own PA system. So tell me a little bit about your experience with the 1S and what you like about the new systems.
Yeah, so I mostly use it when I do public speaking. I'll get hired to go to a conference or something like that, um, and um, and that will be what I either bring with me or ask for, when I'm setting up for the conference as a keynote speaker or something like that. So um, I've even asked for it as far as for like backline goes, at different locations. They ask like, "What should we get?" And I'm like, "Can you guys call and see if you can find one of these things?" And most of the time, somebody will have one. Um, the other thing is, um, I got pretty used to that being my rig. Like when I would go to schools and do um, live events with kids, whether it's, basically how that works is I will go into a room, either a library or a gymnasium or something like that, and have an experience with a handful of kids, anywhere from like 20 to like 200 kids, which is a pretty big dynamic, range of playing a small kind of library in front of 20 kids or playing, a gymnasium that's going to be pretty washy sounding with
Yeah,
like 200 kids in it. So whatever I kind of take with me has got to be able to like kind of be not that loud and then pretty loud at the same time, and also is not going to be something that, is going to be this just kind of, breakneck loading in some kind of full PA system kind of thing, um, and that's been probably the coolest part about it is just carrying, I've got a little um, wheeled kind of device, I guess. A lot of people use them to carry drums on. I can't remember the name of the brand of it, but it's basically like a little cart that stretches out. Then I can put everything on, and wheel it in. And with one kind of roll in, man, I'm pretty much set up within a couple minutes. Usually these events are pretty early in the morning, and I get there like right when school is kind of opening, and then when the kids kind of get ready to rock and roll. So I don't really have that long to set this thing up. I mean, probably 20 minutes, and then there's like kids in front of me, for the next couple hours or something. And I've never once had it fail on me, which is a big deal. Like when I'm on the road, I have double everything. Like I have a double pedal board, I have double amplifiers. We have another Leslie cabinet that sits next to the Leslie cabinet because I mean you just can't have the show go down. So that's one thing. It's like, in a perfect world, I would literally carry another one of these systems in my car. That's how much of a backup guy I kind of am. But one, I've never had it like get weird on me at all, and two, it's always been able to fill the space of what I'm trying to do. The setup is easy. The the form and function of the whole thing, it looks really cool and it functions really cool. And um, so that's kind of my opinion of the first one. Like it really does everything I need it to do. Um, and I didn't really need it to do anything better. And so the weird part about this conversation is it's like I really love my last system. I was like completely 110% satisfied, you know? But it's like you don't know what you have until like something better comes along and then you get to, you know, kind of A B the two.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised. Like this one sounds like and I'm this is gonna be a little hard for me to talk junk about the old system because I was such a fan of it. So I don't want to like
Yeah, the old systems are great systems. So
yeah, I
that
don't want to sound like I'm talking junk about it, but this one sounds like you pulled like a sheet off of the last system. Like literally like a blanket or something. Not like something super thick, but like, you know, a couple sheets of cloth. It feels like you pulled it off of it. Like the spread of it is way, way different. To where it sounds way bigger. I mean, just amazingly bigger. The highs and the lows and the mids and everything are way more, I guess, not only like transparent, but more um, um, the frequency response is more driven, I guess, if you could say. You know, like when you listen to the old system, because I've A/B'd these two things now, and when they're side by side, the other ones like they all kind of get lost in this one sound. Whereas this one, you can definitely hear the high frequencies, the mid frequencies, and if you got the bass, so the sub hooked up, you can
yeah,
definitely hear the loves. You
there's
know?
like a clarity to
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the bandwidths.
yeah. Whereas before, it just kind of all just kind of was a thing. You know,
Mhm.
there's definitely more division and clarity between them now. And dude, I'm a huge techie guy. I love um, um, apps and specifically when they work really well. When they don't work well, they suck. But this new app with this thing is game changer, dude. I mean, just that alone to me would be worth getting this system if you do what I do. Like, you know, you kind of need to see it. You know, like I would suggest anybody who's watching this to go and watch a video of somebody using the app, you know, and how it really works because to you know, in theory, without kind of having the hands on or seeing the hands on with the app, you just go, okay, the app controls the system. But like with what I do, if I had like a little um, mic stand with my phone on it, and I was, because I play two tracks with this group because it's always more fun to play with a drummer than it is to not. So I like that, you know, when I'm playing with kids. And you play a song for kids like without a drum beat, and then play a song for them with a drum beat, and it's like night and day, man. They go nuts over, you know, when there's a beat, you know. So the idea that I would be able to just press a button on my phone and control the volume to streaming the song, and then not only be able to control that, but be able to control the EQ, the volume, you know, and everything just from the app that connects to this thing is pretty awesome, man. And it's, I mean, I use another system that's kind of similar to this, a company called Aperture Lights. They allow you to control their lights via app, and their system is pretty flawless. And this is like, there's not really anything about this. As soon as I got it out, my phone instantly found the product. When I tried to stream it, my phone instantly found how to stream it. There wasn't a lot of like searching around. When I turned the volume up, you can see the volume turn up on this thing. I mean, there's not really, you know, any loose, you know, kind of hairy, why did it do that kind of thing going on, you know?
Yeah, the idea behind the I/O or the mixer on the array systems is that it looks like a regular mixer, but there's less stuff there. Yeah, there are still layers that you can get down to bass, treble, reverb
Sure.
on the channel, and it's just really intuitive. Like you automatically just kind of know what to do.
Oh yeah.
And taking that sort of elevated, simplistic approach and just putting it on your phone or your iPad, so that there's zero learning curve on the app. If you know how to use the product, you know how to use the app, and it just kind of takes away some of that anxiety of if you're the performer and the sound person, like, some things may go wrong, or some things will need tweaking throughout the show.
Sure.
And we just try to make it super super easy.
Well, it's interesting because I generally bring along like the 6 channel mixer, with me. And there's, like I would say anywhere from, according to what my setup is, at least 2 channels that don't get used on that. Uh, with this system, I can do everything I was doing before just through my computer, you know. But I really wanted to be able to control the amount of reverb that was on my vocals because one, I particularly don't like singing dry,
Yep.
and I don't like the way acoustic guitar sounds through a PA system or another speaker dry, So that was why I was bringing the other one around. So that the fact that you guys added the reverb to the app is like probably the like on the whole thing because I think reverbs, everybody uses reverb, but it's kind of like the most underestimated effect of all time. Like everybody uses it, but you don't really truly value like what it does because it's just kind of always there. But when
Yeah.
it's not there, it's like I don't know, I almost feel naked or something. You know what I mean? So the fact
Yeah.
that
Reverb is almost like that's how we sound in the real world. When you
yeah,
hear yourself, without reverb, and it sounds like you're pressed up against the speaker, that's it's not really what we sound like, or we don't think we sound like that. So
yeah.
yeah,
No, the
reverb.
fact that you guys put the ability to control the high, the treble and bass, and then added the reverb along with the volume. And then the other cool thing is the mute buttons are really accessible. So if something starts getting weird, it's not like you've got to flip to different pages to get to different thing. Like basically everything you need is kind of like right there on that one screen to where if for some reason you were to stream your music and it was too loud, you could easily just go, whoa, let me turn this down, get it kind of situated without, blowing somebody's. But, the thing about it is before, if you were doing that and you didn't have the app set up, then you'd have to start diving to the back of this thing, to start trying to turn stuff down or whatever, or if there was any feedback or anything like that. Whereas now it's just kind of like all right there in this little handheld thing, which is, I
Yeah,
mean, that's the power of technology, dude. It's so awesome.
it is. It is. You can even you may already know this, but you can even save scenes in the app.
Oh yeah, I've
So
already saved one for
cool.
my whole like little thing that I do. Yeah.
So any shows that you do in one particular venue, or any one particular type of show at multiple venues, you can just recall that scene, and you're like 95% there already. Maybe you got to
Yeah.
make tweaks based on the room,
Yeah.
uh, but it adds power to an already really powerful, really small PA system.
But you guys also did a good job on the base of this thing is not nearly as kind of like I wouldn't necessarily say cumbersome, but the other one had the like folding out wings and all
Yep.
that stuff. And there was a part about that I was always like, maybe one day my finger's gonna get in here in a weird way or something, like because it's pretty intense how they fold out and lock and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Whereas when I saw this one, I was like, I wonder if this is gonna have like the kind of same stability or whatever. But the fact that it's actually lighter, easier to set up, and then I can't really see anything that makes it like less stable.
Yeah. So
That's probably one of the other cool features is it's substantially lighter than the other version, like by I don't know what the weight difference is, but when you're just holding it, you can feel the other one. Whereas this one's like I could tote it for a mile, whereas the other one's like I got to be careful I don't drop this on my toe, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. The way the legs kick out on the 1S and the Model 2, like that's it's a genius design. It works really really well. Keeps it stable, but it is a bit cumbersome. Um, Believe it or not, that L1 Pro 32 is 60% lighter than a Model 2. Like
Wow.
you cut the weight in half, because the drivers are smaller and lighter. We don't need those legs to extend it. We can still achieve the same stability requirements
Yeah.
with the base, which is about a 15-inch radius,
Hmm.
and it's just as stable. passes all the horizontal force tests. Um, some folks on like that was one of the initial reactions to folks seeing the images online, like, oh man, it looks like how the kick out legs. I wonder if this thing is just going to fall over. But you've used
No,
it.
it doesn't feel like that at all.
Yes.
Yeah, when you put it together and kind of, like do the little like, whoa, is this different than the other one? It definitely doesn't feel like, even on carpet, like where I've got mine now, it definitely doesn't feel sketch at all, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. The Model 2s and the 1S is like that's a portable system, but if you hold that array, you're like, oh man, this could be a workout.
Yeah.
You'll understand why it needs those legs to count because those array sections are really heavy. This, as I said before, 60% lighter. It just does the trick with what you got there. So it just adds to the whole portability story. And if you dropped it on your toe, you'd probably be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But that it's kind of one of those things, man. If you go through like, so like, if you go through all the things that I like about the system, it's really portable. It's very sturdy and stable and well made. It's kind of the build quality of it is not gonna like fail you, on a gig or whatever else. And it sounds really good, you know. And then so now it's not only that it's lighter than it used to be, and the build quality is still, the same, and it's as far as its durability and everything, it still feels like it's the same kind of quality or build. When you hold it, it's like it doesn't feel cheap or anything. It didn't feel like anybody cut corners, and it's got the same kind of from what I can tell, everything feels really sturdy. So I would assume that it would have the same kind of Bose, like be able to take a lick or two when doing a gig kind of thing. But then you add the difference in sound and the app, and then that's kind of where it was like it would be like, okay, I should probably, you know, get the new one because the sound is it like um you can't talk about it enough. Like if you have both of them set up beside each other, then the Owen like it does the trick. It's fine. It's good. It's good. It's killer. But when you hear this one next to it, like I said, it's like it's literally like a sheet got pulled off of it or something. You
Yeah,
know?
I love that description. Um, I mean, you summed it up nicely. Our goals across the board were improvements in performance, like it's got to sound better,
Yeah.
needs to be louder,
Okay.
and clearer, more low end, more everything. It does need to be more portable, which is usually those kind of conflict against each other because if you want to improve performance, you got to add weight, you got to add drivers. But particularly with the racetrack, which we haven't talked about yet in the sub, like that was one way to kind of make it more portable while still adding to the performance. And then just the overall ease of use, like we wanted that to be an even better user experience. And to tie it all back together, what you said about quality, like there can be no sacrifices in quality. Like
Sure.
Bose we don't really kind of champion all of the quality and validation, reliability testing that we do, but our products really have to take a beating before we'll let them see the light of day. So I'm glad that you commented on, it just your perception is the exact same quality
No,
because
it
of,
doesn't feel cheap. Like when you pick up the bass, it doesn't feel like this thing's going to start like having pieces rattle around in a couple of like gigs, or when you pick up the line array, kind of, and you hold them compared to how heavy they were before, it doesn't feel like, like if you drop it, it's going to like break most of it or anything. I mean, it kind of has the same vibe where it feels sturdy, but it just doesn't, it's just not as heavy,
yeah.
you know?
I can tell you that some of our validation testing requires us to drop that thing many, many times.
Yeah. It feels like it. I mean,
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about, you mentioned
but
like
I gotta say this though before we get it. This particular model is really really loud. Like I mean, it can like I don't know of a situation that I can really think of. I mean, if my buddy was getting married and he was like, "Hey, can you come over and like DJ and play some guitar?" And I was sure, whatever, I'll come play or hang out and whatever. Uh, this thing, it like specifically with the bass thing, I just cranked it up about like a fifth of what I could, and I'm in a place where I don't have to worry about volume with anybody else, my neighbors or anything else, and it was like it can get really, really, really loud. You know?
Yeah, 128 dB
Yeah.
peak, which is
I had it like to maybe a fifth of what it would go to just being right here, and it was like way too much for me. And the whole deal with the bass too is if you were doing it in an atmosphere to where you needed to get people like up out of their chairs and moving kind of situation, like if you were a DJ or you were doing some kind of event where you needed people to like come alive instead of just sitting there, the bass that comes out of this thing, you would have to be dead inside not to move if it was a good song coming out. You know what I mean? Like it,
yeah,
it definitely vibrates for sure, you know?
yeah. At minus 3 dB, which is pretty loud, it goes down to 37 hertz, which is
Wow.
that covers a lot of content.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's a nice. It's not a harsh bass either. It's a nice, warm, like a big, um, like a big hug, kind of like,
Yeah.
and you can hear that kick drum kind of hitting the chest. Um, yeah, it's a. I mean, I'm pretty biased, but it's a
Yeah.
well balanced system, and I'm glad you like it.
Well, when I was talking about before, when you pull the sheet off of it, it's not like it gets harsh, which is kind of something generally when you have that kind of like pull the sheet off of it and it gets like you think clarity, you can also kind of start thinking that it would get brittle on the high kind of stuff or it would start getting harsh at like louder volumes. It doesn't really do that. I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't know what the science behind it is or whatever else, but when you crank it up, it doesn't get like needles to the ears kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just more or less like it sounds like specifically on a tune you'd be able to hear like the finesse of the hi-hat or something, or if there was like little percussion stuff in the background you would like hear those now, whereas before it would just kind of meld into the overall sound or something.
When we started EQing these systems, we started with the legacy product, the compact, the 1S, and the Model 2, and those things sound great.
Yeah,
As
they
you
do, they sound great.
said. So we didn't want to approach it like, okay, we're starting from scratch. We're just going to make these things sound awesome, and we're going to start at zero. We started with where we left off. The one thing that those legacy systems have is a really nice mid-range
Mhm.
presence. Um, some would say that they don't have enough bass, um, but we certainly have enough bass now with these new systems. And
Yeah.
we preserved that mid range, and we preserved slash enhanced the high end as well. So, um, some systems, like, it's pretty common nowadays to kind of like scoop the mids, where you get like that false bottom end and you get a lot of highs.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's perceived as good quality music because you can really feel bass, but a lot of the other stuff is missing. We don't really realize it. So with these systems, we tried to preserve that sonic footprint, but just kind of like elevate it and make everything
Yeah.
even.
But yeah, you guys did it without it getting harsh though. And that's kind of the key thing is that anytime you add like more clarity on the high end, you have a chance of it getting like brittle or, you know, uh, being perceived as kind of like, distorted or nasty or whatever else. But whatever you guys did, it just seems like I said, more clarity
Yeah,
without being harsh.
it's like you read the brochure, man. Like,
Yeah.
clarity. That's one of the things that these
But
systems do so well.
it's hard to explain that to somebody. Like I love my old system so much to where if I would have walked into a store and they were like, "You got to check out the new system," you know, I'd have been like, "I'm kind of fine with the system that I have." But when you A B them next to each other, that's the way that you can really tell.
Yeah,
Like, it's almost like when you're looking at a standard definition TV and then you look at like, when it went to 1080p, you know, the HD, video, it's like, whoa, dude. But when you look at 1080 to 4K, it's just kind of better. It's not really like substantially better. I would have to say that the old system is kind of like standard def to like HD more than it is HD to 4K. Like it's that much better, you know.
I like that. I like that analogy. That's
Yeah,
good.
but yeah,
Um,
so if you're interested in one of these things, make sure you try them like go somewhere where you can hear them side by side so you can like tell for yourself cuz that was the, having both systems, that was where I was really like okay, I'm sold. You know, like they did it. You know.
The people who haven't used portable line arrays are sometimes confused by the form factor. Like they don't understand how this thing works. What a lot of people don't understand about portable line arrays as opposed to a point source speaker, like a regular PA speaker that's mounted on a pole. When you go see Zac Brown Band at Fenway Park, on each side of the stage, you see these giant line arrays. Those line arrays are, or the L1 Pro systems are micro versions of those giant line arrays, which are speakers working together, like engineered to work together to propagate sound at a more consistent volume throughout large spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take an L1 Pro 32 versus a point source speaker, um, you lose 3 dB of volume every time you double the distance from the source, as opposed to a point source where you lose 6 dB of volume every time you double the distance.
Ah, wow,
So
that's interesting.
it allows you to two things. It allows you to not have to be so screaming loud at the source, which you talked about earlier. Like the volume is good for like the smaller rooms for
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
events that you do, plus the gymnasiums. Um, like it doesn't have to be super loud at the source, but it propagates so that it really does. The sound goes to the end of the room without having to be super loud at the source. So line source versus point source technology, it's easier on the ears. Like even if you're a mobile DJ, like you can have conversations right in front of your DJ booth, as opposed to like not being able to hear yourself think because it's screaming super loud from the PA speakers.
Is that similar to like ribbon speakers? Do you know anything about ribbon speakers? My
I
buddy had a pair of ribbon speakers when I was in college, and that was one thing that was always so awesome about them was that the sound was kind of like a similar volume at different distances away from the speaker. You know, so I mean that doesn't really have much to do with here with this system or that system, but that was one of the coolest things about it was we would have parties at the house and have people over, and it wasn't like we were constantly adjusting the volume of everything, you know, which is kind of interesting because when I have my old system, which is what you're talking about, like a point system,
mhm.
like um, uh, speakers on sticks kind of thing, I find that I'm always fiddling with the volume, of where like reading the room. So if everybody's kind of more talking or the volume
Yeah,
needs to be this or that, whereas when I have this thing set up, I generally put it at kind of like there's two volumes. There's like people hanging out in the room and talking and it not being too loud. But when I go to the back of the room to get like a drink or something like that, or to speak with somebody, I'm not like, I need to go back up and turn this thing down, which I never actually really noticed that. But um, the cool thing too, though, is even if that is an issue with the app in your pocket, you could just easily like just go doo, 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 and,
right, right. It's also the reason why these are um, pretty feedback resistant. Like you can have a microphone pretty close to the system as long as it's aimed properly, and you don't get feedback, as
yeah,
opposed to a point source speaker at the same volumes. Like you're gonna get feedback because you just get that direct energy from the point source.
sure.
Um, when you're looking for new gear, like what's your process? Do you like what do you do? Do you go down like a YouTube wormhole? Do you like do
Yeah,
a
there's a
search?
I'm I'm a big gearhead, man. I mean, because I play a handful of different instruments, I've I've been a gearhead in a lot of different worlds, and I have my own studio. So, like near field monitors, gearhead. Microphones, tube microphones, ribbon microphones, gearhead. Keyboards, old and new, Wurlitzers, clavinets, um, uh, standard newer keyboards, Hammond organs, like total nerd gearhead on all that stuff. Guitars, dazed. Spent most of my life reading up about like what year they were, made and all of this, and what the pluses and minuses of all of the different factors are. So, but generally with something like this system, I would probably end up watching some kind of review of it from from one person, and then I would probably start doubting that person's validity or not. Just being completely honest. And then I would want to read somebody. I'd want to see somebody else's take on it, and then I would try to find somebody who's like not getting paid or something like that. Um, for doing this, which by the way, I'm not getting paid to do this. So, my opinion on this thing is basically an honest opinion. Um, so, um, that's, I generally I'm very skeptical about what people, their reviews. And so I generally end up going down a wormhole of skepticism that leads to where me watching 10 different videos and to where I kind of like start piecing together what the feedback is from everyone. And then that turns into generally me wanting to go and like play with it. I want to go and find a version of it.
Get your
Um,
hands on it.
yeah, get my hands on it, kind of thing. And with this last year, that's been kind of hard to do, but um, um, that would be the normal thing. And if not, it even goes step furthers where I would, you know, before I like if I bought this system, I would probably try to find somebody who had the old system, and I would do like a whole little scientific thing where I would play acoustic guitar through both of them. I play, run a microphone phone through both of them, and kind of like try to see if I could run them to their nth, degree of what all they're capable of doing, and then I would, you know, decide after that. So buying gear to me is something that I very rarely. I've only probably bought one guitar in my whole life without playing it. And luckily it was like a I think it's a '73 Firebird. Um, and I mean, it was going to sound good no matter what kind of thing. But that being said, it might have been a '67 Firebird. But anyway, I
Mhm.
don't really buy gear without, guitars specifically without playing them, you know. So that's another part of this thing. And then I end up going too far into trying to figure out um, what is it, the limitations of a product, you
Yeah.
know. Like when I was trying to find a microphone that fit my style of singing and whatever else, I bought, a Neumann microphone. I bought like a copy of a U87. And then I bought a cheaper version copy of that. And then I recorded myself. I mean, dude, just to buy one microphone took me like 3 days of, like literally charts and stuff, you know,
Sounds like you should be doing YouTube review videos, Clay.
I think it's just for me though. I mean, I think if I had to put a camera on it, because it gets weird. It gets to where, it's over multiple days and and all this. But I love doing that, like kind of little audio scientific experiments with gear and things of that nature. But that's kind of half the fun of it.
So it it's a little different. I guess that was like a leading question. It's a little different with the PA system, right? You don't always have like one of each PA system at your local music store to go check out. If you do,
Sure.
then definitely go down there and listen to the things that you're considering. Um, so with the Bose L1 Pro line, there's three array models. We've got the L1 Pro 8, which is the replacement for the compact. Um, it's the smallest, most portable. Um, 8 drivers in the mid-high array and a 7x13-inch racetrack sub. Same mixer that you have on your L1 Pro 32. And then up from there is the L1 Pro 16, which has got 16 drivers in the mid-high array, a 10x18-inch racetrack sub, which is the same as that's in your sub 2 there. Same mixer. And then there's the Pro 32, what you have, which has got 32 drivers, 2 sections of 16 from ceiling to floor. Mixer in the power stand, the bass, and then you compare that with the sub 1, there's a smaller version, a 7 by 13 inch racetrack, or the Sub 2. So I guess my long-winded question is, what advice would you give to people who are looking for portable PA systems, to make a purchase?
Well, I mean, just by knowing this one in particular, I would say that if this can't handle the job, then you probably don't need this type of PA system anyway. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to like do a festival or something like that and play in front of 10,000 people, like this is this isn't the PA system that you're like ultimately looking for. Like if this won't do it, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So um me being this is like the biggest one that you guys make, But I would say um that just without the sub, I mean, I can't really see a situation to where, um, me thinking that I would be like, this is not going to cut it. This isn't going to do the job that I need to do. I mean, adding this sub in, and having the bigger sub is definitely going to, like I was saying before, you're going to feel the bass more. You're going to be able to like, get people moving kind of thing. But if I needed to go do a talking, thing where I don't really need bass and the volume of music that I'm going to be playing in between different sessions or whatever would just need to be low volume and not trying to get people moving or anything like that, then this system would be able to do, you know, any situation that I can really think of myself getting into, whether it's like a backyard party, for friends or, whatever, or, being in a gymnasium and speaking in front of a lot of people, or even going to like a conference hall or something like that and needing to speak in front of a large room, I still think this would do it. I doubt very seriously that if I was speaking in a rather large room with like 300 people in it, that you would not be able to hear what I'm saying if I had it in the right mode and I had the mic EQ to where, it kind of cut with a voice or whatever. I don't, and it wouldn't be harsh or sharp, but I think it would do the whole room.
So you're saying basically to just know your use cases, like know what you're going to use it for. So if you're just going to play, if you know you're just going to play small coffee shops or cafes, 100 people, 150 people, you probably don't need this system. You can go with the Pro 8. If you want something that can play to more people, like up to 200, maybe even 250, but you still want that like max portability, maybe the Pro 16. But if you want all those things, um, plus the ability to play like pretty big venues, like
Yeah.
up to 300, 350 people, then you want to go Pro 32.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing would have to, I mean, from my personal point of view, would be probably where your budget is. You know what I mean? Because this system in itself, is so like you guys have made such a big difference in the size of the bass and how much it, how what it weighs, to where if you're playing a small uh, venue that you needed it to be really, kind of portable and everything, like this really does it. So it, to me, I think that, from a person who has the price point of a product is kind of where I get in. It doesn't, I generally save up enough money to buy the one that I need, or whatever else. That I would say that my biggest, you know, suggestion to people would be that this model will basically handle anything that you can do, and it's just like wherever price range you get in, I think it's going to be able to do what you need it to do, um, given what you can afford, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And you guys did a good job at kind of tiering that up to where if you got this a certain system and you wanted to save up and add a sub to it, then you would be able to increase the power of your system or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I guess, with this, uh the big system can do anything that I can think of, and I'm sure that the smaller systems are are going to be kind of comparable, to whatever you're doing. I would say that it would be able to do the job. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
not
long-winded
everyone.
way of saying that, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys did a good job. I went online and started looking at where the price of different things were, and everything else, and you guys did a good job of. But this is an investment, man. This is one of those kind of things to where, I mean, I've had the last system that I've had for, I don't know, 5 years or something like that. So, and I was happy with it. I mean, I was fine with it until, like I said, I heard this. You realize that it's that much lighter. The quality and the clarity is so much different, and everything else. So, but I would see this being one of those kind of things that you buy it, and you just use it until you guys come up with another version of one of these that sounds better than this one. I mean, it's not going to be like you necessarily outgrow its sound. How would I say this? You're not gonna like beat it up and it like break down on you. I
right.
don't think. You know what I mean. I think that you invest in it, and it's going to be something that 4 or 5 years later you're just going to be using it, and technology will have changed at that point. Maybe even longer than that.
Arguably, a great PA system will sound like a great PA system throughout its life.
Yeah, yeah,
So your point being, um, if you could, spend 26.99 or 30.99 on a 32 with a sub one or sub two, then you recommend that because that covers all your bases. Not everybody can drop that much on a PA system, so there are instances where at 11.99 a Pro 8 makes total sense because of the rooms you're playing, or a Pro 16 gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of like bigger rooms at
sure.
17.99 and still sounds awesome.
And I'm not sure if this is something that you guys like promote or whatever else. But being that like I said before, I'm not like really getting paid to do this, and you guys asked me to give my honest opinion on this whole thing. These things do relatively well in the resale market. Like meaning that if you did get a system and you needed to sell it to get a bigger system, like if you go and look at where these things go for and whatever else, then I mean, honestly, with like just like any kind of gear, in cars or whatever else, something new is going to go for more than something used. But I looked at used systems on these guys, and they kind of hold their value relatively well. So if you were in a place as a professional musician where you were trying to go up and needed to, you know, um, get rid of your old system to get a new system, whatever that might be, Bose does pretty well in that world, which is another great thing because that's something that I also look at when I'm buying gear is like, what's the used market like on these things.
Yeah, this is true. Even today, when there are brand new L1 products out there are lots of legacy systems uh, out there for sale because folks want to upgrade. Um, and they're not inexpensive, used purchases because they're just great. They sound great and they're
Sure.
they're built to last. Um, so what's next for Coy? What do you got planned for the rest of 2021?
Well, there are talks of us being able to. Well, we just got out of the studio. We just
All
went
right.
in and spent 2 weeks in Nashville at our studio up there recording a new album, and I'm really, really, really excited about it. Um, there's not a lot of details as far as when it comes out and things of that nature, but uh, I left the studio feeling really, really, really good. It was great to see everyone. It was great to just be back in the same room. We spend so much time with each other, over the years to where, going a whole year without really seeing each other has just been kind of odd, really, but we the magic was still there. The songs are really, really good on this album, and I feel like it's going to be something that really connects in a really beautiful way. And I'm really excited about playing the songs, and we kind of did. something we haven't done for a while. We've decided a long time ago that we didn't want to continuously make the same album, and that's been one of the things, like, good, bad, whatever. We don't want to make the same album, the last album, and we will always want to kind of be pushing the envelope. We've actually gotten really, known for being a band that pushes the envelope. Where, on the same album that there's a rock song, there'd be a song that's like a big band song, or whatever else, And most people might think of us as like a country band, but if you really dive into the music and everything else, it's kind of, there are definitely roots in that world, and we're definitely a Southern band. But I mean, we definitely take, all kinds of risk. And the last album, we got more interested in, like, what would it sound like if we did a pop song, And so there was, use of different, electronic elements and things of that nature. Where with this album, we said, it's been a while. Why don't we just play as a band? Why don't we just, no extra anything. Let's just play as a band, And that doesn't mean that we didn't get creative with,
Yeah,
like, delays on drums, and, and kind of doing cool stuff. But this is, the band, and it really feels good, man, And Zach's voice is sounding better than it really ever has. There's a certain thing to me that happens with, like, I'm a huge Ray Charles fan, and my favorite, he's the best male singer to ever live, in my opinion, as far as, like, as far as displaying emotion through his voice, And my favorite part of his life and his voice, when he was in, like, his mid 40s, like early late 30s to, like, his 50, when he got into his 50s and stuff, his voice kind of had a little bit more rasp
yeah,
that he didn't have as much control over. But and not saying that Zach's voice is going to do that or anything like that, but that was just his voice. But my favorite time of his voice, where it just was really super powerful, was where he was, like, probably at the age that we're at now. So Zach's voice is sounding really great. But yeah, so we're going to put out a new album, and then there's talks of us getting on the road, if everything, goes as planned, with, all the stuff that needs to happen for that to happen, vaccines for the country, and et cetera, et cetera, But
that's cool, man.
other
Well,
than that, man, I'm just, the silver lining to me has been able to hang out with my kids and focus on, trying to give back to teachers and students and whatnot, and, in such a weird time. And writing music at home, and, kind of a different take on life to a certain degree, because I've been on the road for like 15 years. So, um, I told my wife and my mom, I was like, I don't think I've been at home this much since I was probably 13 years old. My parents let me start driving around with other people when I was 13. Like, my best friend was older than me, and he was 16, and he could come and pick me up from school, and take me back home. I was allowed to do that. So, and then that quickly turned into where, like, Luke's going to come and pick me up, and we're going to go to his house. And my parents were like, all right, cool. But, since I was 13, I've never been at home this much, which feels good. I mean, it feels kind of good to be at home. I get to use all my stuff, you know?
yeah, yeah, it's it's both awesome and strange at the same time. This like extended staycation. Um,
Well, it's definitely Groundhog's Day. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make, like it's like all, Cheerios and everything else, but you know, the 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 whole idea that it's changed me so much as a person, man. There'd be a completely other philosophical, another 2 hour conversation, about, what all I've personally been through, and what it's changed in me. But I don't think I'll ever be the same. And I think that some of that is a really good thing. It's definitely, been a real big pull on, like, my anxiety and, mental health and things of that nature. And I've had to really focus on that stuff, like everybody else has, and, really make it important to stay focused on it. And whatnot, with all my tools and everything. But like I said, the silver lining of it is, I have a, 3 and 4 year old daughter who really know me now, whereas before, I was a good dad and I did everything that I could, but I was also gone a lot, and
Yeah.
it takes being here to really, kind of solidify that relationship. So that's one thing that's going to be pretty hard when we get back into going on things is, but they actually know that I'm in a band now. Like before, when they were younger, they didn't even know what I did. And now we watch videos of me playing on stage, and they're like, "How many people is that?" And I'm like, "It's everybody. It's everybody. It's everybody in the world." And they're like, "Really?" Which I kind of feel sorry for them because I try to make their imaginations and their creativity as, as expansive as possible. So I'm always exaggerating everything, and they really, my daughter now is like, "Dad, tell me the real, real, real truth. You know, is everybody in the whole world at this gig or is it just some people?" I'm like, "No, it's just everybody in Boston, or there's a lot of people from Boston, kind of thing." So
That's awesome, man. It's a nice silver lining for sure, and I'm excited that you guys got into the studio, and hopefully we'll get to
yeah, man,
see
there's
you.
a lot of good stuff to come, man. I definitely feel like that, the whole idea that there's a possible light at the end is shining, and and hopefully that you know the the country and the world as a whole, whatever you learn through this kind of butt kicking that we all took is something that we kind of carry with us, into the future, and don't just kind of like forget it, which is to me one of the biggest things I've learned is just a deeper understanding of empathy for my fellow man. I feel like I want to help more. I feel like I try to be more understanding and have more patience with not only myself but other people around me, and try to do whatever I can with friends and whatnot to give them a call and check in on them, and make just kind of go that extra distance. That's kind of what I've learned from this thing is like we're not going to make it out of this if we don't start caring about each other more. That's me personally.
Yeah,
So I hope that when things get busier that I still remember to reach out to my friends and they reach out to me, and all that stuff, just checking in. But I'm lucky I got a lot of good people, and man, but kudos to you guys, understanding that you guys had to kind of stay on your target with this product, through the diversity of people being at home and not being able to do it in the way that you normally would have done it, and whatever else. That's a big thing. I mean, I've had to do a lot of that with the products like I was saying in the very beginning. I had projects that got released at the very beginning, and we had to scratch everything that we did, and releasing them without being able to be in the same room with each other, was just, it was a whole nother different set of skills that had to like take place. And there were obviously things that were an advantage to it, and then there were things that were complete disadvantages. So kudos to you guys for sticking with the product and releasing it, in the right time, and having to go through all the adversity that it took to make something like this happen with, having different limitations and everything put on you with what came along. Cause this thing's killer,
well,
man. I mean, we don't know each other really well, but I'm like, in a small way, I'm like actually proud of you. And I don't really know you.
you're too kind, Coy. Thank you very much. It's we're not making vaccines or anything up here. Really saving the world, but it's important to us, and just something that we want to see through to the end here. So thanks for the kudos.
Yeah, man. I'll end on this thing, dude. You know, I think that one of the biggest things is like people like you and ourselves who work in the music industry. You're around music so much that it's really hard to fully grasp the power of music. Like what this PA system is capable of doing is like sharing music to a larger group of people. You know what I mean? Like how awesome that is that we have a device that, can like spread like, music to more people in a cooler way. And I got to a place at the very beginning where I like cut off. I wasn't playing music. I wasn't touring. I wasn't really listening to music. I was just focused on getting these projects out. And then it really occurred to me like the power of music, like just the whole idea of being able to get on stage and a bunch of people show up into one location and then we all like listen to music. Like, what is that about, dude? Like, what causes humans to do that? You know what I mean? And why does it like release all of this, like, tension, or why does it make you feel all of this stuff? And why does it, like, some of my favorite moments in my entire life are me doing it as a, a listener, and also me doing it as a performer. Like, what is it, like, why is music so powerful? And I think that, people like you and I who are constantly involved in music, whether it's, you know, like producing a product or playing it or whatever, it's easy to kind of forget that this product is going to, like, allow some singer songwriter to play music in front of more people, or and the power that that has. I mean, somebody might be walking down the street, and because this thing can reach 6 foot further, somebody might walk by and hear some lyrics that this guy is saying, turn around and go back and listen to this person, and be another person that gets to meet each other and whatever else. So I don't know, man. I definitely, this whole thing has caused me to realize the power of music is way bigger than I've been giving it credit for over the last 15 years. And I've spent my entire life devoted to it, like practice every day, went to school, got a degree studying music, toured for 15 years. I mean, like, my whole life centers around it. And yet I'm still, there's still more to it, as far as what it does to us as a culture and a community and its people, and the power that it has and everything else. It's like, it's just crazy, man.
It's powerful. It's so powerful and tribal. And um, I love the way you put a spin on portable PA systems. Like, it really, like, just making music more accessible, and making audiences more accessible to performers at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is really what this tool does. And yeah, man, in the absence of live music this past year, you know, fingers crossed that we're due for a renaissance of just like some amazing creative outputs from Zac Brown Band and the rest of the world. It just feels like something really, really nice is about to happen. So
Yeah, I hope so, man. Fingers crossed. If
yeah,
anything, I'm going to keep talking about the power of music, because it's definitely, I've had an epiphany that even though I spend all day long on it, I don't fully understand the capabilities that it has, you know, how you can kind of transcend time and space and smell things that aren't even in the room when a song plays. I mean, there's a song by Blind Melon. I watched this Blind Melon documentary the other day, and there's a song that I listened to in college, and when that song plays, I literally can close my eyes and be in my dorm room at 18 years old, scared for my life, not knowing what I'm going to really do with my life. And the song's called "Tones of Home," and the whole idea of it is like, just the whole idea that, it reminded me of where I came from, reminded me of my parents, my friends, the fact that I was, somebody in high school that was like, knew what he was doing. And now that I'm a freshman in college and I don't know anybody and I don't know where I'm at and what I'm doing, that, like, at least I still have this place, Tones of Home, and I'm like 42 years old, dude, and I can close my eyes. That song started playing on the documentary, and I closed my eyes and I was like, dude, I'm like in my dorm room, like,
time
it's just
machine. Really,
so crazy, dude. Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, uh, thank you so much for spending this time. I love talking to you. You're a good soul and a super interesting dude who just knows what he likes, and is not afraid to talk about it. So thank you very
Yeah,
much.
this has been a killer talk for me, man. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Let's do it again.
Yes, let's do it. I'm up for it, brother.
Cool. If anyone out there, thanks for tuning in. And if you've got questions about the L1 Pro systems, you can go to americanmusical.com to check out the L1 Pro 8, L1 Pro 16, L1 Pro 32, as well as the Sub 1 and Sub 2. You can also go to pro.bose.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.